It's that time again. And honestly, after two, on paper, really good cards. I know Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font didn't really deliver the way it did and was a wet fart for a fight night ender. But still, a good card on paper and a good pay-per-view before that. We get back to things and stuff with the UFC back at the Apex Center. And this fight card actually hurts me a little bit more. Like, it cuts me a little bit deeper because at the top of the card, we have a bunch of fighters that once upon a time, I had a lot of interest in. RDA, former champion, amazing fighter, Hall of Famer, if it's based on accomplishments and so on. Cub Swanson, one of the best fighters not to win a belt in the lower weight classes. Vicente Luque, one-time legitimate title contender, didn't get a title shot, but legitimate title contender who, despite only being 31 years of age, seems like he's done. And that's kind of depressing. Hakeem Dawodu, great prospect out of Canada that I was at one point really, really big on. And cannot summon up any real particular enthusiasm for now. Chris Daukaus, who, I'll be clear. I never thought Chris Daukaus was going to be particularly good. Like, I want to make that 100% clear. I thought that, Chris Daukaus is a guy who, once he faces a decently athletic heavyweight who hits hard, is going to lose. And he did. But other people got in behind him, and, that still makes that a little bit depressing. So you got all of that at the top of the card. And Khalil Roundtree, this great, prospect who takes a step forward, a step back, and a step forward, and a step back again. Very frustrating. And then further down, you've got fighters that I find just kind of depressing to watch fight, like Jamie Pickett. It's not great. It's not great. Now, I will say this. There are a couple fights I am legitimately looking forward to. I'm kind of intrigued what Tafon Nchukwi at 185 is like. So I'm interested in that fight. Marcus McGee is kind of a fun fighter. Terrence McKinney, Mike Breeden is a fun matchup. Francis Marshall, Isaac Dulgarian probably is the highlight of the card for me. And Damon Blackshear versus Jose Johnson should be pretty cool, even though the Jose All Day name is a little bit lame. So, there is stuff to be somewhat excited about down below. But it does feel like a lot of wash fighters and a lot of people who maybe there was a spark that they were going to be something and it never came together. And that kind of is this card. So this will probably be a bit of a short breakdown. Let's start with the main event. Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos, RDA. This fight is dominated by the fact that despite being 38 years old and definitely on the downcline, there's no question the champion RDA doesn't exist anymore. The guy that beat Anthony Pettis and won the belt and for a long time was Khabib Nurmagomedov's best win, isn't the guy that still exists. But it feels like Luque, who's 7 years younger, is actually the more done guy. He is the bigger guy. He's 5'11", 3 inches taller, 6 inches of reach. He's a legitimately sized welterweight. RDA isn't. He's a 155er who can't cut the weight anymore. Boom. So there's things going there. Luque's still dangerous, still a hard hitter, still a dangerous submission guy. Very, very, very good, Darce choke and front headlock game. Very good. But his ability to deal with pressure is doesn't seem to be there anymore. If you look at his fights with Bilal Muhammad, who's very, very good, don't get me wrong, but was able to pressure him, was able to do things and really shut him down. The Jeff Neal fight showed that the stand-up is no longer great or amazing. And that's only 2 losses. And he's, 2021, he beat Michael Chiesa, he beat Tyron Woodley, but we know that Tyron Woodley win is not really worth anything anymore. Randy Brown, Nico Price, and so on. Like, there's some good stuff there, but for a guy whose stand-up game was never the most controlled or the most range keeping, I will see RDA doing RDA things. RDA is a great low kicker. RDA is a great pressure striker. He's for a BJJ guy, actually a pretty good, damn good takedown artist. I don't trust Luque to make RDA do anything but what RDA likes to do, which is, I'm going to kick your leg, I'm going to pressure you, I'm going to find the clinch, I'm going to get takedowns, I'm going to utilize my ground game, my amazing submission game. Your front headlock game doesn't scare me because I am freaking RDA. He should be able to take him apart. There is always also the case that like RDA at 38 years old just kind of like falls apart. And that Luque at 31, just physically does still have more to him. But I am picking RDA by submission, probably a rear naked choke or maybe an arm triangle or something. I don't like, not necessarily the results, because it's not losing to Bilal Muhammad and losing to Jeff Neal that is a problem. It really isn't. Like, those are top 10 welterweights in the world. It's just how broken Luque seems to be at this point. How nothing is really working. The things that used to work are not in any way, shape, or form working for him. And while RDA is a diminished version of himself, everything about RDA still works. It's just working at increasingly lower levels. Like the guys, the physicality you need, the technique you need to solve the RDA puzzle is reducing with every fight. But the puzzle is still there. The raw bones of the game of a champion still there. So I am going with RDA. But if Luque wins, cool, fine. It's more or less a pick and fight, minus 115 to minus 125 on RDA, minus 108 to plus 105 on Luque. So if you've got a really, really, really solid feeling on either way, I mean, again, let's get the disclaimer on the betting out of the way. I really should just add this to the beginning of the video. Do not bet on MMA, which you cannot afford to lose, because this is a sport with so much dynamicism, and it's what makes it exciting. It's what makes it amazing, but it is what makes it incredibly bankrupting to bet on any real money. Like every time we get one of these, like, a bettor has bet up 25 grand on some fighter, you're insane. That's the answer. Just like spice it up, put a little bit of money aside and let it go. But if you got a solid read on this fight, both lines are bettable. Cub Swanson, Hakeem Dawodu. Again, Cub Swanson, 39 years old, even older than RDA. Dawodu, 32. Dawodu isn't sad in the sense that like things aren't working in terms of like physical. It's just he's never made the steps I really, really, really wanted him to make. When he came in MMA, he was like this timid striker. It's like, you have the speed, the power, the technique, the accuracy, the timing for your counters to be a really, really good fighter. And it never clicked. There was never that moment where Hakeem Dawodu arrived. There have been wins in the UFC without question. There have been wins over Julio Arce, good fighter. Zubair Tukhugov, good fighter. Kyle Bochniak, Austin Arnett, not super amazing fighters. But there are like also, Movsar Evelev. No shame in losing to Movsar Evelev, but like, it's just that like the tightness of the fights with Arnett, with Bochniak, with Arce, with Michael Trizano, These are disturbing. And getting just like kind of mugged by Julian Erosa is really painful. And in Cub Swanson's case, you have a guy who physically I don't think works really anymore. To a degree, somewhat like RDA in the sense that nothing about Cub Swanson's recent fights has been like, oh, Cub Swanson is broken. Cub Swanson can't do what he did. It's just the skill, the technique, the physicality that is required to beat RDA or Cub. Well, the same thing I said about RDA. Cub is just getting beaten by a lower caliber fighter, but like he still is fairly creative. He still is fairly technical. He's given up on the 135 cut. That's a good thing because Jonathan Martinez embarrassed that man. But it has to be said that the guys that have beaten Cub Swanson, even in recent times, are guys who are a little bit spicier, a little bit saucier than Hakeem Dawodu, a little bit more bringing it. Like Shane Burgos is not a better striker than Hakeem Dawodu in any way, really. But like he's got aggression and confidence and flows. Hanato Moicano, very, very good back take artist who really could choke Cub Swanson. Frankie Edgar bringing the wrestling. Brian Ortega losing the fight until, guillotine choking because that's what Brian Ortega does. Giga Chikadze, who has a ton of flaws, but like is an aggressive fight finisher. Like Dawodu isn't these guys. He's also not Darren Elkins, Daniel Pineda, and Kron Gracie, though. So that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. At the end of the day, I see this fight going the distance because Cub probably isn't fast enough and powerful enough to, really knock out people who have decent striking defense anymore. But Hakeem Dawodu has a really, add a couple more reallys on there. He has a really hard time actually defining a fight. Like cleanly winning exchanges, having the confidence to like apply his strengths and his talent. Because like he should be able to win this fight. He should be out there and just beat a guy who plays his game and is kind of shot. And yet I still don't trust him to do it. So I'm picking Cub to win a decision. Probably a somewhat ugly fight. Like, and to be clear, if Cub falls apart in the first round and just gets knocked out by like the first decent shot he gets hit with, I'm not going to be surprised. He's 39 years old and has always been a little dumb, shall we say, open to getting hit really hard. But I can't bring myself to trust Dawodu anymore. Like I've done it. I took the leap. I'm like, this is the moment, and it just won't come. So like the thing is like, okay, maybe it's a little bit of a sadness hedge. Like I know Cub is done. So if he loses, it's not going to be sad in the same way that if Dawodu loses, it's going to be like really sad. So maybe it's a bit of a sadness hedge, but I am going with Cub by decision. He does also have like a grappling and like wrestling game that he can apply. Like Cub is not just a striker. Like that was a highlight of Cub's game, is he was very well rounded. And Dawodu seems very, very scared of someone who just kind of brings a grappling game to him. It makes him passive. It makes him kind of low output. Honestly, it short circuits his combinations. It short circuits his power. It's a case of a guy who seems really at home in a kickboxing setting, but cannot get his head around the more brutal and not nuanced, because nuanced is the wrong word. Kickboxing is the more nuanced sport. Variable sport. There you go. Multifaceted. There we go. It seems like he's paralyzed by the options presented by MMA. Dawodu is the favorite. I don't blame it. Minus 225 to minus 250. Cub is the plus 175 to plus 190 underdog. I might be riding that underdog. Khalil Roundtree, Chris Daukaus. I have a very short breakdown of this fight. I don't think going down to 205 helps Daukaus at all. You may remember last week, I talked about Tanner Boser and how I didn't think that his move to 205 was going to be helpful. Now, he did go out there and he did beat Alexa Kamer, but I think like Boser beating Kamer, as I picked it, has way, way, way more to do with like Kamer just being this lost and I disappointing prospect. Whereas Khalil Roundtree, for all of his faults, and the fact that, my God, watching that Marcin Prachnio fight is just horrifying, is a super powerful guy who every so often puts together a masterful performance of explosive power and accuracy and timing, and that's about it, really. Like he has some very nice striking performances. Chris Daukaus relied on being the faster guy at heavyweight. And when he ran into guys who could match his speed, match his boxing, he got destroyed. He got absolutely wrecked. 205 has better technical strikers, one, and way faster fighters, way better athletes. Like, that is the dynamic of 205. It's this like bizarrely really athletic division with like a lack of technical depth. But like heavyweight is a lack of technical depth, but like prioritizing just like slugging battles. What I'm saying is Roundtree should be like way too fast, way too explosive, and too good of a striker, and will knock out Daukaus, because Daukaus does not have he's not tremendously durable. That was his problem at heavyweight. It's going to be worse down here. I guess I was never on the Daukaus train. I thought his brother was the better of the two, to be honest. He was just in a weaker division and fighting, like, let's be honest, not very good fighters. And once he started fighting good fighters, he lost. It's kind of the same here. Like, 205, who are you going to beat, man? Who are you going to beat? Like, theoretically, you may be, like, a little bit bigger, but, like, I've never seen a great wrestling or grappling game out of Daukaus. Never have. I don't know. Maybe we'll see a new Chris Daukaus, but I got him just getting knocked out. And Roundtree is I have a plus here. I assume this is supposed to be a minus. Minus 175 to minus 200 favorite. Daukaus plus 146 to 163. That could be wider. I'll probably be betting on Roundtree. Polyana Viana versus Yasmin Lesudo at 115. Viana's big. That's kind of like the defining factor of her at 115. Like, she's not super good at anything particularly. Like, she's big, she's strong, she's not a bad grappler, not a bad clinch like wrestler, but she doesn't fight at a super high pace, to my knowledge. I'm actually kind of curious about this. UFC stats. What is the like strike per minute difference between these two? I'm kind of legitimately curious. I should have looked this up, but Lucindo feels like a way more active fighter. Let's see here. Significant strikes per minute, about 4, 3.97. Accuracy is incredibly low, 39%. And for Viana, it's only about a half strike difference. Okay. I don't know. It feels like Lucindo is a far more pace-based fighter, far more better at like just winning decisions, I guess, in a nutshell. Like, putting together good, decent combinations, and with good power, good speed. She's, not a bad athlete, not a fantastic athlete. I do think both of these ladies are like, I think Lucindo's ceiling is lower than Viana's. If Viana can put together some stuff, she's 31, she's got time. But if she can put together some stuff, there's nothing physically limiting her. Whereas Lucindo, I do think, just kind of is not particularly big, but she's 21, maybe a little, maybe it'll come. But Lucindo has just got that dog in her. She's more willing to throw down, throw more volume, be the aggressor, be the person who initiates the clinches, even if it doesn't go well for her against Viana. But utilize them to break things up, give Viana some things to think about before getting back to her volume striking and crushing her. And I have her by decision. It's just one of those fights where it's gonna be like 3 rounds of like, Lucindo landed more. Maybe Viana landed like 1 or 2 big strikes, but Lucindo landed more, controlled the action, did the thing, and we're gonna get that for like round 1, round 2, round 3. So Lucindo by decision, she's the favorite at minus 188 to minus 200. Viana plus 148 to plus 163. Feels about right. 185-pound fight. Assuming Tafon Nchukwi can make the weight, because despite the fact that he's only 6 feet tall, which is, very much middleweight height, man is thick. The man is a golem of onyx moving forward. All right. So what is Tafon good at? He's a limited fighter. There's not a lot he does, but like he has decent pressure boxing and footwork, despite not being particularly, foot fast. He likes to get to the clinch. He likes to bully there. He's massive, and at 185, that should be a huge thing. Like, this is a guy who bullied people in the clinch at 205. At 185, that's going to be oppressive. But there's not a huge amount of like technical savvy or anything like that. Like he's a dude who's durable, powerful, confident in his pressure, and determined. Like those are the adjectives I would use to describe his fighting style. AJ Dobson is a guy that I always wanted to be like, all right, he's going to turn a corner. He's actually really good. Like he's a good athlete, decently sized for the division. And then I realized he's 31. And I'm just like, it's not that, like I said with Viana, it's not that 31 is like the end of development cycle. There will still be something, but it's kind of like he feels like a way more raw, younger fighter than 31. And when he wins, he tends to be a way better athlete than the guy he's up against. And while he is faster than Nchukwi, I think, he's not stronger and he's not more powerful. Very much he has a native MMA striker's approach. His fight with Armin Petrosian was a great example of this, where it's just like, all right, here's my 1, 2, 3 piece combo. All right, now you go, and then I go, and I have no way of making it like my fight. I have no way of taking your initiative away from you. I have no way of really disengaging from exchanges that are not really going my way. I'm a good athlete. I'm reasonably well-rounded for the division, but there's not really a lot of depth anywhere. And it feels like if you're not going to, one, make Tafon not fight the way Tafon wants to fight, or two, be better than Tafon at it, I don't really see how you can win. So I've got Tafon Nchukwi by decision, but this is very much a battle of the scales moment. Nchukwi is coming down to 185. What does he look like? Does he look dead? Does he gas? Is it just too much for him? We gonna find out. He is the minus 142 to minus 154 favorite. Dodson plus 115 to plus 125. You could go either way. Speaking of a fight that is not going either way, Josh Friend versus Jamie Pickett. All right, so the Jamie Pickett speech is the same always. I don't know why he fights. And what I say about this is not because he's particularly bad at it or physically incapable of it or whatever. It's the fact that he clearly does not enjoy it. Everything with him is a panic push to the clinch. There's no comfort at range. There's no comfort in the pocket. There doesn't even seem to be a lot of comfort in the clinch. He's just a constantly nervous looking fighter. And that's what I mean is it feels like it's confrontational therapy for him. This scares the crap out of him. He has the athleticism. He's big. He's got a 60-inch reach. He's 6'2". He fights at 185. That's big. He is a big dude who's a reasonably good athlete and should be actually pretty good. And he's just not. He has more physical talent than Josh Friend, who's a 6'4", guy who's huge as well. But Friend clearly enjoys it. Friend is the example of a guy who goes out there. I don't know if he's aware that he's never going to be champion or whatever, and that he's, fighting a physical disadvantage a lot of the time. But he goes out there with a purpose to scrap and have fun. and, is a pretty decent wrestler in his own right. Big enough that his not very good striking is fairly effective, and, stunningly good cardio. And that's the thing, is that, Pickett has a lot of things he could do to win this fight. He's the faster guy. He's got better footwork. He's more explosive. But, he's just going to smash into Fremd and let Fremd have, the fight that Fremd likes to have, which is just like a messy clinch and pocket striking battle with some takedowns and some scrambles and whatever. I've got Fremd winning. It's why I don't like watching Jamie Pickett fight, because it's not like he's bad, but the dude is 13-9, and he has some wins. Leandro Staropoli is an okay athlete. Joe Holmes is a big dude, at least. But, lost to Jordan Wright. Had no answers for Tafon Nchukwi. Had no answers for Kyle Daukus, who's pretty unathletic. Lost to Dennis Tialunin, who's not very good. The loss to Bo Nickel, I completely forgive. But, my guy is 2-5 in the UFC, and even outside the UFC, it's you lost to Punahele Soriano and Charles Bird, Tyler Mitten, some guy named Joshua Williams, and his wins are remarkably bad. 4-2, 0-3, 1-2, 1-2, 8-9, 4-2, 8-9, 12-8, 5-6, 7-10, and then 6-3. His best win is Leandro Staropoli. That's not good. This being said, while I am picking Fremd to win by TKO, Fremd should not be a minus 333 to 370 favorite against anybody. Pickett at 250 to 280 is it's the bettable line, but my answer is stay the hell away from this fight as a betting prospect, because Pickett should actually be the better fighter. Just if he ever has a realization of just I don't know, embrace the fear, whatever. I mean, I guess he is embracing the fear. He's had 20 plus pro fights while being terrified in every single one I've ever watched. I don't know. It could be a fun fight, but I'm not looking forward to it. Marcus McGee, JP Buys. Again, a fight. JP Buys is really a flyweight. He's up at 135. He seems like a broken man. He's not a super good athlete. He's just kind of well rounded and likes to be a top position grappler more than anything else. And Marcus McGee is a good athlete. He's a mess. He has killer instinct. He has some creativity. He's going to TKO. He's going to TKO JP Buys. There's not much else to this. There's just not. I understand it's a late notice fight that got put together here. It was supposed to be McGee versus Gaston Bolaños, which, oh my God, that would have been fun. That is a mess. I love it. And Buys is stepping up here, but I can't say that I'm really here for it. Terrence McKinney versus Mike Breeden. I actually like this fight. I like this fight because, I do enjoy watching Terrence McKinney fight before he eventually self-destructs. Dude is really athletic, good finishing power, good submissions, good back take artist, good wrestler. It's all there, but he fights at a pace that is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form, and has no idea of defense. That's kind of his thing, is he kind of just self-destructs. There is not a fight that at some point Terrence McKinney isn't winning. It doesn't matter if it's Derek Minner until getting triangle choked by him. It doesn't matter if it's beating Sean Woodson for a round before getting flying kneed into oblivion. It doesn't matter if it's the fight with Drew Dober, where, again, looking fine until knee and then ground strike finish. It's the Bomb Fiend fight, the Sadikov fight. These are all fights where he has the moments early on in the fight where he comes out like like a shot out of a cannon and does really cool things and then blows apart. And I think he'll just do that to Breeden and finish him because Mike Breeden is just a bare bones kickboxer, not super deep. He can grapple a bit. He can counter strike. He can put together combinations. Like there are some very baseline ideas there, but he's not an amazing technician, not an amazingly deep fighter, and he's not a great athlete. So I see this being the typical Terrence McKinney start, and it just unlike usual where McKinney blows up, he just finishes him. McKinney by TKO minus 270, minus 320. Breeden plus 210 to plus 240. Again, it's not like a super interesting technical fight to break down, but it'll be fun. It's fun watching Terrence McKinney do Terrence McKinney things. Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. This is my matchup of the night. And it's not a super interesting matchup in any real sense. It's two guys who are kind of the same. They're good athletes. They're wrestlers more so than anything, but they're wrestle boxers. They like to grapple. They like to get dominant positions. They like being on top. They can scramble. They can grapple from bottom. They just don't necessarily like being there. And both of them really fought guys who were just not very good coming up. Francis Marshall had his kind of eye-opening moment against William Gomez. Gomes? I think it's Gomes. Gomis. There you go. Where he lost a fight where it was like kind of brought to his attention that you're just not really that deep anywhere. Like you are kind of used to being able to do what you want to lesser physical fighters, and you couldn't. And Dulgarian, theoretically, is a similar level of athlete. And we haven't seen what happens to Dulgarian when he fights somebody with the similar levels of physicality to him, which is not surprising because he's only 5-0. But like his biggest win is TJ Britton, who's a 7-2 fighter, not a very good athlete. It's all first round finishes. So like, I don't trust either guy, but I don't not trust them. Like there's the makings of a good fighter in both of them. Like they have an idea of how they want to fight. They have the physical ability to bring it. It matches their physical abilities. Like it's long-term interesting, but like it feels like a fight between two guys that shouldn't yet be in the UFC. I'm going with Dulgarian because I'm being positive. I'm being positive that just meeting physical ability doesn't stop his game. Whereas I know with Francis Marshall, his game becomes messy and inefficient and problematic when he reaches that physicality. But it wouldn't surprise me either way. I got Dulgarian by decision because I don't really see either guy finishing each other. It could happen. Like there's enough like power and like opportunistic grappling in both guys, but I can't really pick it. Dulgarian by decision. He's the underdog. Plus 130 to plus 140. Minus 160 to minus 172 on Marshall. Again, probably just steering clear of this, but like it's a fight that I might look back on like a year if one of these guys has really gone on a run and be like, this was the beginning of a story. Maybe even for both guys of being pretty good. Josh Parisian, Martin Buday is the most heavyweight of heavyweight fights. They're both super tough. They both can fight hard for 15 minutes. They both don't do anything especially well, but my big concern is that like Josh Parisian had hard times with the low kicks of Jamal Pogues. Buday's are better. Like they're slower because Buday is a slower fighter than Pogues, but like they're more powerful, they're more damaging. Parisian against a guy he can't really hurt. Dude was made to look like kind of like a technical joke by Dontel Mays, who we know is a technical joke. Budai by the ugliest decision on the card. He's the favorite, minus 198 to minus 230. Parisian plus 164 to plus 185. Let's just move on and get that fight out of my head. Montserrat Ruiz versus Jacqueline Amorim. I think it's Amorim. This could also be like a trash can firefight if Ruiz gets to do her thing. Like, Ruiz knows what she is. She's a brawler who loves head and arm stuff. Like she's judo mixed with like brawling. With good cardio and durability, and she's just mean. She's got the brawler attitude. She'll bring 15 hard minutes to you. Amorim is the higher ceiling fighter. She actually is a pretty good grappler. She like insta-tap people on the regional scene. Seemed pretty physically strong and whatever, but her Sam Hughes fight was really bad. She couldn't get takedowns easily to start with. Gassed out, lost heart, went the distance because Hughes is just in general not a finisher. And it was really, 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 really ugly. And the question is, well, twofold. One, was that just like a UFC jitters adrenaline dump that caused her to just shut down? And two, if it wasn't, what did she learn from it? Did she get better? It's kind of the hope that she did, but in my experience, that generally doesn't really happen. So I'm going with Ruiz by decision to win an ugly, ugly fight where she is the better striker of the two. Which might be the first time ever in her career that's the case. And in theory, I mean, like, she's not easy to take down. So, like, the same thing that happened against Hughes could just happen for Amorim again. Where she goes for takedowns, doesn't get them. Adrenaline dumps, loses hope, whatever combination of emotions and body chemistry went into her just shutting down, it could happen again. I've got Ruiz by decision. Amorim is the favorite, minus 250 to minus 265. You guys aren't off that bandwagon, I guess. Ruiz, plus 200 to plus 205. I would bet on Ruiz. If you're going to bet on this fight. Because I don't know if I'm going to ever bet on Amorim at like those odds. I am looking forward to Damon Blackshear versus Jose Johnson, though. Jose Johnson's pretty fun. Like, he's pretty fun. He's like good power striker. He's 6 foot tall at bantamweight, which is insane. He's got good power, seemingly. Either that or like people he's knocked out are just like really glass chinned, I guess. Always a possibility. But like, he's fast, he's explosive, he's got good reactions, he's a good scrambler. He's not that hard to take down. Like, I first see Blackshear take him down, spoiler. But like, you know, he scrambles back up, he stays cool when he's getting choked and stuff, and like keeps going. Like, dude's good. He's legitimately good. Blackshear is also legitimately good, like a good athlete, good scrambler, good takedown guy. Looked way better in his last fight than he has previously. Was prepping for Chris, what's his name? Heastand. Brady Heastand. Chris Heastand is a simulated character who resembles Brady Heastand a lot. So he was, probably working. This is it's definitely a change in opponent because Heastand's like a one-directional wrestler guy. Johnson's a little bit more well-rounded, can do some things, and is ridiculously tall. That'll be the interesting thing is that both these guys are fighting someone at basically height parity, 5'10" versus 6 foot. Like, they're used to being way taller than the guys they're fighting. So that'll be interesting. I am going with Blackshear because Johnson gets taken down, and Blackshear, if he can take you down and get you stuck in the washing machine of scramble, I'm going to try and take you back. You're going to sweep me? Doesn't matter. I'm going to scramble. I'm going to be going for your back again. Boom, boom, boom. Just being the less well-rounded fighter, but like being a guy with the physical attributes to really make what he does well work. Like, I am a Blackshear fan. I've got him by decision. He is the minus 188 to minus 235 favorite, plus 150 to plus 185 on Johnson. This is my second favorite fight of the card. Like, it's this and then after Marshall Dulgarian, basically. And then, like I said, Terrence McKinney, fun. Marcus McGee might do something fun. Pickett versus Frem might be a complete mess, but reasonably fun. And then the opener, Juliana Miller versus Luana Santos. I said this when Miller was on The Ultimate Fighter. She's a train wreck. She's not a good striker. She's a crazy confident striker. And 5'7" at 185 or 125. No, not 185. No, 125. But her game is this like scrambling, grappling style thing, clinch wrestling thing, but her takedowns put her into like really bad positions. Like she's the sort of person to be like, I've got a body lock, I'm gonna huff you up, I'm gonna take you. Oh wait, I'm on my back. You're on top of me. Oh, that's fantastic. And Santos is a judo black belt. I don't think Santos is particularly amazing, but like she's strong, she's good in the clinch, she's hard to take down. She's going to generally take you down, probably if you clinch with her, and she's a boring smotherer on top. Now, people are like, there are people who are like talking up her striking. I've seen this. I'm just like, okay, you've only watched the Jenna Bishop fight, right? Because Jenna Bishop can't strike. And yes, Santos was landing at will on her. But that's because Bishop can't strike. And she was getting landed on at will against her. And like Miller is, taller, similar reach, psychotic. So like, if Santos hits her, Miller's just going to crash through it and we're just going to end up in the clinch anyway. So like, I don't think the striking matters, and I don't think she's necessarily a good striker, I guess. But I do think she's going to win a decision because Miller's going to just do what she always does, and it's probably going to end up with her on her back. I've got Santos by decision because she's just not really a finisher unless you absolutely gift wrapped it. Santos is the favorite. I have Santos written down here twice in the odds. But she is the minus 145 to minus 160 favorite. Miller plus 120 to plus 128. Not tempted to bet on this fight at all. So that's the card. It's pretty bad. I will say this, for an Apex card, it has very few fighters that I don't believe shouldn't be here. Like there are very few people that I have just like no hopes for as a UFC fighter. There's a couple. There's JP Buys. Not really into it. There's Juliana Miller, but she won tough, so I don't know. There's Jamie Pickett just because of the discomfort he feels. But outside of those three people, like they're people at one point or another proved to be like UFC caliber. And I guess it's got that going for it. But I'm not looking forward to a lot of the fights, and there isn't like a really good fight on the card. Like when I'm talking about Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian, two very, very unproven guys who have beaten essentially no one as my best fight of the card, you know what type of card it is. So there's that. Check down below or to the left or to the right or above. You will find my social media links, the Discord, my Twitch, other places you can find this podcast, all that stuff. Check out the Discord. I'm serious about this. The MMA sim is a lot of fun. We're doing some fun things with the Costa Rican deathmatch mode. And I shouldn't say we. I am rebooting the sim to start career mode again. So like it is a perfect time to get involved and get into fights with the guys and the gals over on the Discord. So I'll see you there, I hope, and enjoy the card.